Connect with us there and get involved.
At Radio Now 953 FM. 953 FM. Like what we do? Share it on your socials and tell everyone.
Want to see some more of us? Head over and meet us on Instagram
at Radio Now 953 FM. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
Good evening and welcome to The Big Story here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. I'm Zainab Balogun Olu. On The Big Story today, we're taking a look at Senator Natasha Akpoti and the Senate, right? And reaction has continued to trail the Senate's rejection of the request of the Senator Natasha Akpoti to resume duties despite the expiration of her 6-month suspension. Now, the Senator had written to the Senate notifying them of her resumption following the expiration of that 6-month suspension in March. But the National Assembly, in a letter signed by the acting clerk, insists that she remains suspended until the Court of Appeal delivers judgment on the case. Now, civil society groups warn that prolonged suspensions erode democracy and deny citizens their right to representation, while the People's Democratic Party, in a statement by its National Publicity Secretary Debo Oluguagba, described the action as a calculated attempt by the APC-led Senate to stifle opposition voices and deprive the people of Kogi Central of representation. I mean, these are some of the reactions. Now, all of this raises very critical questions as to, can the legislature extend a definite suspension beyond its expiry date? Does the principle of sub judice justify locking out an elected representative even after serving her term? Or is this a case of legislative overreach? This and more is what we'll be discussing on The Big Story this evening. And joining me to discuss this, I have two guests. I have a professor of political science and international relations. We have Professor Yusuf Ali Zwaka. Good evening, Prof. It's great to have you on the program.
Good evening. Thank you, Zena.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we also have a legal practitioner to talk about the legality of this. We have Barrister Ekemini Udim. Good evening, Barrister Udim. It's great to have you on the program.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. So let's begin with the legal matters, right? And I'll begin with you, Barrister Udim. The senator is saying her 6-month suspension has lapsed, right? But the Senate is saying she cannot resume until the Court of Appeal rules that the case is still in court. So can the Senate lawfully extend the suspension beyond the period that they have set because the case is in court?
Well, thank you for that question. My take is that the letter from the from the acting clerk of the National Assembly is very worrisome. It doesn't represent the position of the law. Appeal alone does not stay a public officer or stop a public officer from performing the functions of his or her office. And in this case, the filing of an appeal by Senator Natasha alone, and also the filing of the court appeal by the Senate President and the Senate as an institution, is not enough to stop Natasha from returning. We have to ask the question, what was the number of months that Natasha was suspended? She was suspended for 6 months. The 6 months is certain. 6 months certain. There was no room for guesswork. There was no room for elongation. And that is why the Senate was specific about the number of months. It said 6 months. And the question is, has she served out the 6 months? The answer is yes. So you cannot extend this on the grounds that, there is a matter at the Court of Appeal. Because of that, it cannot come back. The Senate has to await the decision of the Court of Appeal, and then we take a decision and then communicate that to you. I think that's not the position. That does not I mean, that does not have the support of any law in this country right now. No law whatsoever. Now, let's look at when a governor loses at the tribunal, and then the governor goes to the Court of Appeal. Nothing stops that governor from functioning in that capacity as governor, pending the determination of the decision of the Court of Appeal. The governor still has the right to go to the Supreme Court. That doesn't stop that governor from performing the functions of his duties, of his office. Now, let's even look at the Senate. The Senate as an institution has many appeals filed at the appellate court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, when the Senate is not satisfied with the decision of a trial court. Does that stop the Senate from still functioning as an institution? It doesn't stop the Senate. Because appeals are handled by lawyers, and the administrative work is handled by the Senate, the legislative work is handled by the Senate, and so these things work in pari passu. You don't have to force so as for an appeal to be decided. It is for that reason that I'm saying that the letter by the acting clerk of the National Assembly does not have the support of law. And I'm surprised because the acting clerk is also a lawyer, because you see Esquire in his letter. He's a lawyer, I presume so. So I'm surprised that he's saying that the tendency of an appeal alone, without more, without a decision, without an order of the Court of Appeal saying no, don't resume, just the tendency of an appeal alone, he's saying that Natasha cannot resume. I think that, and I'm saying that decision of the deputy clerk, the acting clerk, does not have the support of any law. Now, let's also give an example here. Somebody is sentenced to a term of imprisonment by the Lagos State High Court. The person goes straight to prison. And while the person is in prison, he files an appeal against the decision of the trial court. And because of the delay in the trial of appeals in this country, I'm a practicing lawyer. And I can tell you that it's not appeal that is decided in 1 year. Most times you have 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, even 5 years or more. The person stays there, starts out his prison term, and he now tell that person not to go because he has an appeal before the Court of Appeal. No, he will go because he has served out his prison term. So to conclude on this, or to land on this very question that you asked me, Senator Natasha Akpoti suspension was for a term second, 6 months. Having served out the 6 months, Senator Natasha should be allowed to return to the Senate. As a matter of fact, Natasha was not even supposed to write a letter to the clerk. All she needed to do was to wait for the resumption, and then she goes in because her suspension has abated naturally under operation of law. And that's my position on this.
Thank you so much, Barrister. I'll come back to you on that because what they also claimed is that the matter is sub judice. But I'll come back to you on that. Let me take it to Prof now. Prof, what's your reaction to this latest, stance by the Senate, right? Because we've been seeing this issue go on. Now, 6 months has elapsed. She's supposed to resume, but the Senate is saying this case is in court. And so she should wait until, that case has been decided upon. How do you react to that?
This is just a primitive, way of looking at things. Primitive, because, they cannot, even the Senate president knows that what he's doing is not right. But because of his ego and because he wants to show that, he's the third most, ranking, person holding power in Nigeria, that he can do and undo, and that she cannot do anything. Because what they are doing is unconstitutional. There are rules, unfortunately. These are supposed to be lawmakers, where they said they have made rules to guide them, and they are now saying that their rules are superior to the Constitution of Nigeria. You begin to understand these guys don't even understand what they are doing. Simply because they don't understand that all these things they are doing, they may think that they have bought this military, bought everybody, the judiciary, the press, every person, the civil society, and even the labor unions. But what they don't know is that they are only cutting the anger of the people. Because you cannot sit down and say you have suspended a whole constituency. As what? From participating. What the law says is 14 days. Then why, and even the court that gave a judgment recently said the punishment was excessive. Even with those, if these are rational human beings, wouldn't they know that what they're doing is wrong? And then he now claims that the thing is in court. Has he forgotten that Sharaki was taken to court one time, code of conduct, and that he was attending the code of conduct, and that didn't stop him from performing his duty as the Senate president. So all this, pretext. And then surprisingly, the clerk of National Assembly, who is supposed to be apolitical, who is supposed to be neutral, now will join, these characters to also to be fighting someone that is supposed to be his principal. Because without the senators, will there be anything like the commission that they have in National Assembly? I think they should be very careful all these things they are doing. It doesn't really mean anything. To me, I think they are not just serious individuals. You can see recently that China celebrated their 80th, day, Victory Day celebration. And you saw the kind of things they displayed to the world to show that, look, if you are ready to develop, you can do it. And this people doing this thing should not also forget. I will not cite for them the case of Alberto Fujimori of Peru between 1990 and 2000, and what he did that eventually led to the collapse of the government to the extent that he had to send his resignation from Tokyo when he went to attend, an international event. And that when he faxed, his resignation, the parliament refused to accept it, and then he refused to come to the country. Then around 2007, he mistakenly, 2005, he went to Japan. He traveled from Japan to Chile and was arrested. And then he was tried and convicted for corruption, human rights violation, and abuse of power. And he was given long prison sentences. So all these things they are doing, they shouldn't think that this thing will continue forever. They can have their way now because they are the ones in charge. But it can never be, history is always there to judge them if what they are doing is right. And they should not think because they have silenced virtually everybody with the kind of things they are doing that they will continue, to do that even on the Nigerian people. I think they should know that enough is enough. And I think they should tread the path of peace and caution by just allowing that constituency to be represented. It's as simple as that.
All right. Thank you so much, Prof. So I'll take it back to Barrister. And maybe, we just rejoggle people's memory. All of this started as a result of what the Senate called alleged misconduct. She not taking the assigned seats, that was given to her. And at the end of the day, she was suspended. This was March 6th. She challenged this case in court. Now, the court ruled and said that this was July 1st, Federal High Court, Justice Binta Onyako, and she said that the suspension was unconstitutional, excessive, and a violation of the senator's constituents' right to representation, and also said, the Senate can look into these laws, but asked that she pays 5 million naira and apologize because at the time, they refrained anybody from talking about this. And so that satirical apology she puts, they said she was still talking about this. Now, the Senate president also, did a cross appeal saying that it was even wrong for the government, for the courts to have looked into this matter when they had not exhausted the internal process yet. And so they filed that cross appeal as well. And the Senate president said, they should nullify that. He sought some reliefs there, saying that, they should nullify that judgment. And maybe I say the suspension and upholding the Senate's authority to discipline its members, including suspending 7 senators. So they are saying they should invalidate, what the Court of Appeal said, and also ask the court to declare that no constitutional rights were breached in the suspension of Mrs. Akpoti Uduaha. So, just, to rejoggle the memory. Now, they've come out to say that since that case is still in court, it is sub judice. And so because of this, they do not want to entertain the matter. Do they have any point there?
Well, we have to separate the event. What is an issue now is what happened on the floor of the Senate on the 6th day of March 2000, I think 6th or so, March 2025.
That's when she was suspended. February 20 was when the altercation happened.
Okay, yes, now. So we have to separate the event. What happened on the floor of the Senate and what happened after she was suspended. These are different things.
Yeah.
What is in court, talking about Justice Binta's judgments that you made mention of, it happened after Natasha had left the Senate, the floor of the Senate. On the floor of the Senate, Natasha had the altercation which led to her suspension. And that is what the Senate should deal with right now. And the question is, how many months did you suspend her? 6 months. Has she served the 6 months? Yes, she has. Now, what is before the court? There are many matters before the court. Remember that the Attorney General of the Federation has also filed a case against Senator Natasha, a criminal charge. That's 2 criminal charges. Remember that Senator Akpoti has gone on appeal. Remember that the Senate as an institution has also gone on appeal. That's fine.
So I think they're talking about the appeal, the cross appeal that the Senate president filed, saying that they should nullify that judgment. So
it has nothing to do with the suspension for 6 months. This person was suspended for 6 months. There is appeal. There are appeals. 3 appeals at the Court of Appeal.
Yeah.
That's fine. The law allows the citizen of the country to go on appeal if the citizen is dissatisfied with the decision of actual court. You cannot stop Natasha from going on appeal because that's her constitutional right, which is in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That constitution has been amended over time by the Senate. So it belongs to the Senate. And the Senate cannot give a right of appeal to citizens. And now the citizen goes on appeal and she's punished for that. No, that will not be in tandem with democracy.
Okay.
Appeals can go side by side with legislative function. There is no order of the Court of Appeal right now saying, do not allow Senator Natasha Akpoti to resume after 6 months. If there was such order, then the clerk would be right. Now, the clerk cannot sit as a court and say, no, we cannot allow you because this matter is sub judice. This matter is on appeal. Parties are before the Court of Appeal. That's fine. It's going to be decided one way or the other. But for now, this person has just had the 6 months suspension that was placed on her. And she is expected to be allowed to go into the floor of the Senate and then begin legislative activity. Anything outside that is just pushing the interpretation of the law to a very uncomfortable limit. The fact that an appeal has been, for instance, there are many appeals against the federal government of Nigeria in the Court of Appeal and in the Supreme Court. Some appeals are against the office of the president. Does this stop the president from functioning? No, it doesn't. The president continues with his work, and the appeals continue. If at the end of the day, the Court of Appeal says, you were right, you were wrong, then the decision is done properly settled. But to say that the mere filing of an appeal without an order of court restraining Natasha from going to the Senate, to say that that alone, filing of an appeal, is enough to stop her from entering, I think we are pushing this thing too much, too far, and to a very uncomfortable limit in the country. Why in a democracy? I will not act like people that are in a democracy. I'm not like people that are not in a democracy. I am saying, and I'm talking as a practicing lawyer, there is no law in this country right now, except the Senate is preparing to make that law, that says that once you file an appeal, you cannot resume your seat anymore. This is the citizen of the country. And she has gone on appeal. And they are saying she cannot return. That's punishing the citizen for taking a legal step. A step that is recognized by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And I think no citizen should be treated that way, let alone a senator. Shouldn't be treated that way. So the Senate has to accept Natasha, first and foremost. The clerk needs to withdraw that later. And then accept Natasha back to the Senate. If the Senate now feels that the suspension for 6 months was not sufficient, they now have to pass another resolution suspending Natasha for another period of months. But for this 6 months that we had in March 2025, Natasha has fully served it out. Okay. And in fairness to her, and in tandem with what the law would expect and what democracy would expect, Natasha should be allowed to go back and resume her seat on the floor of the Senate. Because there's no legal impediment right now. The issue of sub judice is taken too far. There's no law that says that once the matter is pending, you cannot resume your seat. If the Senate wants the court to make an order specifically restraining Natasha, then it is left for the Senate to go back to the Court of Appeal and say, my lord, the justice of the Court of Appeal, we do not want her back. We want this motion to be granted to restrain her. Let that be done.
Okay.
Then until that is done, please, Natasha should be allowed to go back.
All right. Thank you so much. But Professor, looking at this issue now, I mean, because they are saying, just like we've seen Barrister Udim say, it doesn't mean that she cannot return. The fact that, okay, the case is in courts. And we've seen this issue, linger for so long. From a democratic perspective, right, and looking at the political side of this issue, do you think that Nigerian politicians, because at the end of the day, she's supposed to represent her constituency, right? There are people, she's supposed to take the matter, to the Senate if there are issues and the rest of it, but she's not been able to do that for the 6 months that she's been there. Now, do you think that disciplinary measures are now being taken overboard, maybe being used as a tool for political vendetta? Do you think this is more about politics, or what exactly? Why do you think that this situation is going on the way that it is, even after she has, served the 6 months that they actually, are set out for her?
You see, it's just that we have very shameless set of individuals that call themselves politicians in Nigeria. What was her accusation? Or what offense did she commit? They said she didn't sit in the assigned seat that was given to her, allocated to her, and she made comments. Now, the punishment for that, constitutionally, is no more than 14 days. You now went and gave her 6 months. Don't forget that she has accused the Senate president of sexual harassment.
Yeah.
So the entire thing is something that is just the president of the Senate now exercising his power. Who is she? He doesn't understand that, he may be standing alone in that with some of his, co-travelers. But that will make the Nigerian very angry. I think in their own interest, in the interest of the Senate itself, the clerk should withdraw, just like the barrister advised. He should withdraw that he is supposed to even ensure that there is some level of peace, in the National Assembly. And not that he will now be contributing to the lack of peace. What they do really is completely unrelated to why they've been elected to be in the Senate. When we look at it, what are they supposed to be doing there? They're supposed to make laws for the peaceful running of, Nigeria. Is that what they're doing now with suspending their colleagues? You can see that they're not focusing on the goal or the reasons why they've been elected to promote, the development of the country, to ensure that there's peace and security. People are busy being killed everywhere. That is not of concern to them. It is Senator Natasha's refusal to sit down in a position that is a problem. How can that be a problem? In normal democracies, that will just, maybe amount to she being asked to work and stay outside for some hours. And then she can now be recalled back to, because that is what civilized, governments will do. But these primitive individuals that tend to believe, that they are in government, and therefore, instead of just operating, as people that should be civil in their behavior and conduct, they are behaving as if, they are not going to maintain any civil rule. And these are the people that will tell you that the worst democracy is better than any other form of government. And yet, the other form of government that they don't want even to hear about are doing wonders. Today, China, has become a global giant. Not by operating this nonsense we call democracy in Nigeria, but by operating their own unique system. They have a unique system. Not that you just copy and paste something that you can't even use. You can't even operate it. And then you say that you're practicing democracy. Go and check the democracy in the global index of democracy. What is the position of Nigeria? Nigeria is something that is considered to be a hybrid. It's not even a democracy. It's a mixture of just some things that look like election and, of course, authoritarian rule. So when people are in authoritarian rule, what they are doing is just to express their own hiding under the guise of certain rules that are not tenable anywhere.
Professor,
is he saying that he himself now, because he has appealed, is he saying because he has appealed against the case, he will stay off his job until the case is resolved? Is that what he's saying? So if he will not stay off his job, why should the other senators stay off a job?
So, Professor Zwaka, what should be the expectation from the Senate, right? Because if the Senate president says there are other senators there, right?
Look, there are other senators there.
And that 14 days that you said.
The Senate is not being run democratically. That's just one thing you need to understand. Several of them have even complained that even money bills were brought to them and they're given 2 hours within which to decide. Is that a Senate? We know that, yes, to cooperate with the executive is in good order if it's going to promote our development. But how do you just keep approving things without even debates? And even some things have been done outside the law. You are not even able to challenge it. For instance, you have the coastal road of 700 kilometers costing about 15 trillion. Did you go through any procurement or anything through the end of this? They are not looking at those things.
There's a lot if we want to talk about the Senate, but I don't want us to digress. But on this situation, what should the other senators also do on this matter? We've also talked about, it's 14 legislative days, because we've seen that, different courts have ruled as to 14 legislative days is what is in your Senate standing rules. And at the end of the day, we see them suspending for 6 months. So on the part of the other senators, is there something that needs to be done? The judiciary themselves, there's something that needs to be done, especially on this matter that's gone back and forth, because we've seen people suspended for, more than 2 weeks. And the Senate and the court has said, you shouldn't go beyond this. It's excessive. You need to look into it. But the Senate will still say we can discipline our those who also err.
Our politicians are not focusing on the reasons why they're elected. That's the problem, generally. So if they have a different reason for being there, you see, it's all this issue about ego, about lack of emotional intelligence, about just doing things anyhow. You see, because what transpired in the Senate should not even get anybody suspended for more than 2-3 hours. You can be suspended for the deliberation of that day, but the next day you can resume by your job. It doesn't take anything from anybody. But I'm telling you, just to exhibit that I'm in charge, I have the power here to decide whatever will happen. When you want to talk, they say I'm not permitted to talk. You must be permitted. And then things have to be listed. If these things are not listed, you cannot talk off points. And so it becomes a very big problem for them, because now when you have somebody who is not willing to allow any form of debate, and this is supposed to be a democratic institution that should, cultivate the culture of debate, of dialogue, of persuasion, of trying to make your point based on superior logic, not just based on some primitive, reasons that you cannot be challenged by your colleagues. I mean, and the Senate President doesn't know that it doesn't cost them anything for them to remove him as Senate President, because all of them have equal position. They are all senators representing constituency. He was not elected as Senate President from Akpoti, from the Senate President. He was elected by his colleagues. But because they have a system that runs there that is really very suspicious, because how can they not be able to talk, most of them, to say that this is that is not rational, it doesn't make any sense, and that they should return back to, something that is reasonable, not all reasonable things that they're doing there.
Okay.
That people cannot talk. Just yesterday I was watching Siraki Dixon. He had to come out of the Senate to now complain to the public, about something that transpired in the Senate, where the Senate President denied him the right not to speak. So they are being, there's a kind of dictatorship, in that Senate. And unless they, actually check that, the country is going to really pay very costly for that. Because what's going to happen is that's why I can see that there's nothing happening really there.
Okay. All right, Prof. Let me go back to Barrister. Because what they said is they have rules, right? And everything skyrocketed from the seat issue. And some said you should have just obeyed that. But you have now suspended her. It has gone beyond the 6 months. And now, we're still talking about this issue. And I'll take it back to Barrister Udim, because when all of this started, right, she went to the court to get an ex parte order restraining them from investigating this situation. Still, the Senate suspended her. Now she has served the 6 months and they're saying she cannot resume. What's available for her? Because if the Senate stands and says, this is it, you cannot resume until the Court of Appeal. And we've seen how this case has been since March. This is September. She actually served the 6 months. The case is in the Court of Appeal now. So what's available for her if the Senate still says she cannot resume? Then can a senatorial district actually maybe institute a case, in court, talking about the fact that, they have not had representation and the rest of it? Is that possible?
Well, if the senatorial district should find a case now in court, it will complicate Natasha's matter, because the Senate will now have reason to say, there's a matter in court. That is even when the sub judice principle, is really going to hold Natasha's matter so firmly, and they will have every reason now to say, we cannot address that matter because it is sub judice.
But is that really sub judice? Is that really sub judice if they institute?
Yes, if a new case is filed now arising from the letter that the acting clerk has issued, if a new case is filed now arising from that, the principle of subjudice will really apply.
Okay.
And so my advice to Senator Natasha would be, let her exercise restraint from filing any new matter. Rather, let her insist on her right. I don't even think it is something that should call for any struggle. I mean, it should return. I mean, the right to be given to her without any struggle. So what I expect the acting clerk to do is to withdraw that letter. That letter is embarrassing us as citizens of this country. It's embarrassing Nigeria.
Well, Barrister, what if they don't? What if they don't? And what if they still stand on that the case is in court? So will she just wait the time till the court the appeal is heard? If it takes 1 year, should she wait for the 1 year?
I would have said she should go to court, but I have said severally on this very conversation that I'm a legal practitioner. I'm a practicing lawyer, and I understand the frustration in this country when it comes to filing of cases and getting decisions given as quickly as possible. If ours was to be the kind of situation that we saw in Kenya, when the current president of Kenya was elected, somebody went to court. Mm-hmm. It took only 14 days to determine that matter by the Supreme Court of Kenya. 14 days only. We could have such a situation in this country. I would have said, Natasha, challenge this letter that has just been issued by the acting clerk. But if Natasha goes to court now, that matter is not going to be determined in another 6 months or 3 months.
But shouldn't there be priority for the judiciary in matters like this, especially when you know that, okay, this constituent, they don't have representation? There's nothing like priority.
That is how it used to be. That is how it used to be. It was matters like this that the court will, call for accelerated hearing. So the matter will be heard from day to day and determined in no time. But sadly, we don't seem to have that anymore in this country. Where matters of this nature are heard expeditiously and determined. The president of this country declared state of emergency in Rivers State 6 months ago. People went to court. None of those matters has been decided as we speak. On the 18th of this month, the emergency rule in Rivers State will be over. And none of those matters have been determined. Mm-hmm. So the justice of those matters are already gone. Because by the time they are eventually determined, they will become academic matters. Only good for the classroom. And that's not how it should be. I look forward to a time in this country where we will get back to where we came from, where cases were placed on the speed lane because of the urgency of the matter, and then heard every day, and then determined. So as it is now, so tell Natasha to go to the court. Natasha will stay longer outside the Senate. So what I would rather suggest is this. The Senate should act honorably. Yes, mistakes can be made. Let the acting clerk, maybe he can say he made a mistake in that letter or whatever, but let him withdraw the letter. Let him allow Senator Natasha to go back because she has served out her 6 months suspension and because there is no order of court as of today, order of the appellate court restraining Natasha from returning. In the absence of such order, when there is no law, there is no principle of law that supports asking Natasha Akpoti not to return. Let her return. Remember, this lady came late. Others had resumed in the Senate before she came from the tribunal. Yes, I agree that some of the outbursts that she had on the floor of the Senate and outside the Senate, those things, she ought not to have, said some of those things unless she had proof. But till this time, Natasha has not provided any proof. So I'm going to blame her somehow for most of such outbursts. But at this point, temper should go down. This is 6 months after that happened. Temper should go down. And having served out the 6 months, I strongly advocate that she should be allowed to go back, like Bob has said. She's a senator. Every other person in the National Assembly, in the Senate is a senator, elected the same way. It's just that leadership of the Senate, it just previous interference, it just first among equal. It doesn't make you higher than another senator. And she should be treated that way. Yeah, and she should be allowed, honestly, to
we
go
have
back
to go. But in 30 seconds, right? because there's this argument of legislative days, calendar days. In this situation, and we've seen other persons suspended, was there anything like legislative days to calendar days? Because some persons say maybe not 6 months.
You go back to the rules of the Senate, which I have read. There is no such provision that says that when a senator is suspended, it has to be for legislative year, months or so on, not calendar months or calendar years. That is one. Also, every member of the National Assembly receives salary monthly. So it doesn't mean that everything in the National Assembly is only calculated based on legislative calendar year.
All right.
The Senate was specific in the suspension paper. They said 6 months. They never specified and said 6 calendar months or 6 legislative months. So the implication is that they meant 6 calendar months.
Right.
After the 6 calendar months,
thank you.
And honestly, she should be allowed to go back to the country.
Thank you so much, Barrister Ekemini Udim, a legal practitioner. We do appreciate your expertise on this matter. Thank you so much.
Most grateful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Professor Yusuf Ali Zoaka, Professor of Political Science and International Relations. We do appreciate your insights into this discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Right. And we hope that a resolution is reached. Like you said, the world is also watching. And that's where we draw the curtains on the big story this evening. We'll take some messages and you can join me on the round table.
For your daily dose of the news, information, and relaxing fun, stay glued to Radio Now 95.3 FM all day, every day.
Since 1894, we've witnessed the evolution of a nation and proudly partner with its people on their path to prosperity. From the ink-stained ledgers to fast transactions, First Bank has consistently adapted, embracing innovation and making giant strides across the globe. It's not just about banking, it's about enabling your success, generation after generation. Our legacy define the past, shape the present, and will still be fostering financial security and stability for future generations. We're helping to create a future where the possibilities and where the world looks up to Africa. Let's awaken the giant in you. You first. First Bank.
Grand Bell International na the shipping solution company where they target to meet your need. After their incorporation for New York in 2002, Grand Bell don't grow so them don't open office and small companies for Nigeria and other parts of Africa. Houston, Texas for USA and Europe. Them they handle shipment worldwide. Them go summer you orishirishi shipping services for plenty items where include air freight, ocean freight, 20 or 40-foot containers, trucking, warehousing, customs clearing, express services, consolidation and imports, plus including pickups and delivery to your demand. Them full ground for Lagos for number 21 Toyin Street, Ikeja. And you fit call them on 080-3513-7916. You even fit email them for info2@grandbellinternational.com and them tanda for Instagram @grandbellinternational, INC @grandbell. Yeah, satisfaction, they important to us.
For your daily dose of the news, information, and relaxing fun, stay glued to Radio Now 95.3 FM all day, every day.